Two more quick articles out of Caitlin, because we haven't read Caitlin Johnstone in a long time. Caitlin, of course, is an Indie Media Award honoree, and she goes to the upper echelon to me of the Indie Media Award honorees. She's another one of the revered in my mind. One of the best there is. Nobody's perfect, and people get stuff wrong. I love her paintings of Julian Assange. I love her poetry. I love her passion. I love her rage. I love everything about her, really. And so this is our thumbnail. And we're going to read two quick articles from her. And you see the first one, which is called The Spangled Kangaroo. And and then the other one is talking about Victoria Nuland and about the warmongers that the Biden administration is promoting.
No, God!
So let's start with our friend.
No, God, please, no! No! Yeah. No! No!
Yep. So, virulent Russia hawk Victoria Nuland and less well-known virulent China hawk Charles Q. Brown are being elevated to lofty positions by the White House. Of course, this is Caitlin Johnstone. You can follow her over on Substack, Medium. Tim Foley, her husband, reads the articles on SoundCloud and YouTube, and they're incredible. But I'm going to read it because we're going to comment on it while we read. The Biden administration looks set to become even more warlike, if you can imagine that, with virulent Russia hawk Victoria Nuland and virulent China hawk Charles Q. Brown now being elevated to lofty positions by the White House. Nuland, who is the wife of Alpha neocon Robert Kagan, has been named acting Deputy Secretary of State by Joe Biden, at least until a new Deputy Secretary has been named. This places her at second in command within the State Department, right behind Tony Blinken's stinking thinking. So there's responsible statecraft and the Quincy Institute. She probably did more than anyone to sour U.S.-Russia ties, and now she is one of Washington's top diplomats. Can I facepalm enough?
Yes.
In an article
Go right through it
about Nuland's unique role in souring relations between the U.S. and Russia during her previous tenure in the State Department under Barack Obama, Responsible Statecraft's Connor Eccles writes the following of the latest news. Her appointment will be a boon for Russia hawks who want to turn up the heat on the Kremlin. But for those who favor a negotiated end to the conflict in Ukraine, a promotion for the notoriously undiplomatic diplomat will be a bitter pill. Yes. A few quick reminders are in order. When Nuland was serving in the Obama administration, she had a now infamous leaked call with the ambassador to Ukraine. As the Maidan uprising roiled the country, the pair of American diplomats discussed conversations with opposition leaders, and Nuland expressed support for putting Arseniy Yatsenyuk into power. She says Yats is the guy. At one memorable point in the call, Nuland said, "Fuck the EU," in response to Europe's softer stance on the protests. The controversy surrounding the call and larger implications of U.S. involvement in the ouster of Yanukovych kicked up tensions with Russia and contributed to Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision to seize Crimea in 2014 and support an insurgency in eastern Ukraine. Her handing out food to demonstrators on the ground in Kiev probably didn't help either. Yeah, I would say not. She's the worst of the worst. Nuland, along with State Department sanctions czar Daniel Fried, then led the effort to punish Putin through sanctions. Another official at state reportedly asked Fried if the Russians realized that the two hardest-line people in the entire U.S. government are now in a position to go after them. So, in a 2015 consortium news article headlined, "The Mess That Nuland Made," the late Robert Parry singled out Nuland as the primary architect of the 2014 regime change operation in Ukraine, which, as Aaron Mate explained last year...
I can get to it. What?
Hey, Ron!
That wasn't the one I was looking for, but...
Which one? You were wanting this one?
They said Aaron Mate yelled at me.
That's the one.
Gotcha.
You done messed up, Ron!
Aaron Mate explained last year, that paved the way to the war we're seeing there today. And $150 billion later, hopefully her position winds up being temporary. In other news, Senate Armed Services Committee has voted to confirm Biden's selection of General Charles Q. Brown Jr. as the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, replacing Mark Milley. A full Senate vote will now take place on whether to confirm Brown, currently the Air Force Chief of Staff, for the nation's highest military office.
I'm sorry, you mean Mark Milley Vanilli?
Girl, you know it's true. Ooh, I love you.
The fact that don't act like you know those lyrics. Stop. That's bad. Knowing those lyrics is bad.
Brown is unambiguous about his belief that the U.S. must hasten to militarize against China in the so-called Indo-Pacific to prepare for a confrontation between the two powers, calling for more U.S. bases in the region and increased efforts to arm Taiwan during his hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee earlier this month.
What happened recently? Something like a $35 million military aid thing to Taiwan just recently?
I think it was more than that. I think
that's the number?
I think it was $325 million.
That's what it was.
Back in May, Moon of Alabama flagged Brown's nomination in an article which also noted that several advocates of military restraint had been resigning from their positions within the administration, including Wendy Sherman, who was the Deputy Secretary of State replaced by Newland. It is too soon to draw any firm conclusions, but to see voices of restraint stepping down and proponents of escalation stepping up could be a bad portent of things to come. Again, support Caitlin Johnstone, support Consortium News, who picks up Caitlin's stories and republishes them. The other Caitlin story that I absolutely loved, and it's short, I think, and Tim Foley reads it, and it's called The Spangled Kangaroo. And you can see I isolated this, and I listened to Tim read this article on...
That looks fake.
It's real. That's fucking real.
I know, but it looks fake because it's like flat 2D sign. Like you couldn't have given that any definition, a border, something. Like it literally looks like you don't even have like a drop shadow on it.
Right.
Like someone just photoshopped it in.
No.
You know?
And that's
like I could have done this in Canva.
Right?
Right.
The USS Canberra commissioning. So, a USS warship has been ushered into service in Sydney. The ship is called the USS Canberra to honor the military union of the US and Australia, and if that's still too subtle for you, it has a literal star-spangled kangaroo affixed to its side. That's right.
Explain the Canberra to people who don't know.
Canberra is a city, I believe, in Australia. So we're naming one of our warships after a city in Australia.
Okay.
That's right. The first U.S. warship ever commissioned in a foreign port has been emblazoned with a kangaroo covered in the stars and stripes of the U.S. flag. An Australian officer, right? An Australian officer will reportedly always be part of the staff of the ship to further symbolize the unholy matrimony between Australia and the U.S. war machine.
And as my Australian people would put it, that guy is a cunt.
RFK's cousin, Caroline, U.S. ambassador to Australia and a shitlib. I can think of no better symbol of this shared future than the USS Canberra, built by American workers at an Australian company in Mobile, Alabama. Her crew will always include a Royal Australian Navy sailor. From today forward, she will proudly display a star-spangled kangaroo. That is like right out of fictional movie about like.
Yep.
I want to. RFK.
I really want to zig a zig. If you want to be mad. What? Sorry.
Hey, RFK
I
fans.
got distracted.
What do you got to say about this? He's running to join a party that just did this and had a Kennedy mention the fucking thing. But he's running to. He's an outsider, guys. He's running to challenge the system.
Well, guys, Carolyn doesn't like him. They don't. They don't go to Thanksgiving anymore.
Right. And you know what? She's right. Not because of our giddy joy over the complete absorption of Australia into the U.S. military apparatus, of course. That's a horrifying nightmare, which is increasingly putting this notion of on track toward a frontline role in Washington's war plans against China. Yes, it is.
China.
But she's right that the Star-Spangled Kangaroo and ship which carries it is a perfect symbol for the way that these two nations have become inseparably intertwined. In fact, I'd take it a step further.
China.
I'd say that the Star-Spangled Kangaroo should be the new symbol for the entire nation.
How about new? You crazy Dutch bastard.
She's obviously joking, but she's saying, I mean, it might as well, right? Australia is not a sovereign nation in any meaningful way. It's functionally a U.S. military intelligence asset, and according to its defense minister, Richard Marles, its own military is being moved beyond interoperability to interchangeability with U.S. War Machine so they can operate seamlessly together at speed. Yikes. Another proxy on the Bobby, as Mastermind Hour nailed it. Yes, dude, that's a great comment right there.
Yep.
A proxy on the Barbie.
Fucking prawns.
Dude, that nailed it.
That's an Australian. That's New Zealand. With the fucking prawns.
Put another proxy on the Barbie. Fuck yeah, man. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. The U.S. imprisons Australian journalist Julian Assange, free Julian Assange, for exposing U.S. war crimes as though he's the personal property of the Pentagon. And when the U.S. doesn't like the Australian Prime Minister because he's too keen on Australian independence or perceived as too friendly with China, they simply replace him with a new one. Australians...
10 more years, Julian.
Thank you. I hope not. Australians even... No, I hope not 10 more years. Australians even found out recently that they are not permitted to know if the U.S. is bringing nuclear weapons into this country. That's a secret the U.S.
What?
Yep. That's a secret that the U.S. keeps from everyone. No. That's a secret the U.S. keeps from everyone, and the government respects their privacy on the matter. So, Caitlin thinks that the Star-Spangled Kangaroo is an entirely appropriate symbol for this country. Put it on the flag, put it on the money, put it on all the warships and planes, and even on our military uniform. When you walk into an Australian government building, Yankarooey, or whatever stupid Australian nickname that gets made up to mask the cognitive dissonance, should be the first thing everyone sees. Yankarooey. I love her. Undignified? Certainly. Humiliating? Absolutely. An admission that Australia is not a real nation? Well, of course, but at least it would be honest. If Australia is going to act as Washington's subservient basement gimp, it may as well dress the part.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Here's Caitlin saying, how would Americans feel if Australia took over its national symbol? That's Kathy Vogan, also from Consortium.
I mean, that kind of looks pretty badass. Like, I'm not going to lie, you know? Like, eagles are just that. You could put anything on an eagle and it would look good.
The kangaroo.
That looks like a fucking cartoon.
Dude, the
kangaroo. Like, that's so stupid.
The kangaroo.